Hello, in this video I'm gonna show you how to make your MSI Cyborg 15 faster. And the first thing you should do is simply going to the settings. So let's go there. This is gonna be the first step, which is system, then power and battery. And now you'll see power mode, and you can set it differently for when plugged in and when on battery. So I leave when on battery to balanced, because if it's set to best performance, then it'll use maybe too much power, but it's all up to you. You can decide however you want, but for when plugged in, I can set it, for example, to best performance, and now it'll have greater performance, but may take a bit longer to charge. But if I don't use the laptop while it's being charged, then it doesn't really matter. Now, the next thing is going to the task manager, so right click on the taskbar. I hope I can do it because my mouse doesn't really work properly. Okay, here I have the task manager. Now you can go to performance and then find no, sorry, not performance, I'm too used to performance. Startup apps, this thing right here, and you can see there are several different apps here, and some of them of course are some core processes that shouldn't be disabled, like let's say you can see here the RTKNU Service 64. I don't understand that name, so I'm not gonna touch it. Another thing is OneDrive. It backs up all your drives, so you also wouldn't want to touch it most probably. And Security Health History, I also wouldn't touch it. But things like, for example, you can see the Microsoft 365 Copilot, it has status set to enabled, which means that it automatically gets enabled when I turn on my laptop. If the status here is set to enabled, then it turns itself on when the laptop turns itself on. Now the problem with it is that it uses some performance to turn itself on, then also stays in the background, and I think that most probably you aren't really like paying attention to your apps being opened every time, especially if it happens every single time you turn on the computer. You after a certain time probably just don't care about that. So what I recommend is simply disabling processes that don't really need to be enabled, and I'm speaking especially about things like Spotify, Discord or Steam. Of course, if these apps are something that you use every single time, then feel free to leave it on enabled, but I don't really think you use it every single time. So if you don't, then feel free to disable it. You can still open the app manually, right? Now another thing about that, as I have mentioned earlier, that stays in the background. And yes, this is pretty important. If you want to make your laptop faster, then make sure that there's not too many apps open in the background, because it does use lots of resources. And if you're playing a game, maybe close your browser, maybe close some other apps that you are not using currently. And I'm gonna show you an example for it. So you can, it's the most visible on an example of memory, but of course CPU and other performance will be used for different apps. But I'm gonna open Microsoft Edge and open several tabs. Of course, for some, these amount of tabs that I'm gonna open is quite extreme, but I also know some people that use way more tabs, so it's like quite normal, and I just want to visualize it. That's why I'm opening several different apps, the tabs, not apps. And now you can see how the memory has raised and the CPU has raised and everything basically here in the performance. Now as soon as I close the Microsoft Edge, memory drops just like that. So it's pretty important to just close the apps you aren't using in the moment. I also can hear the fans going on the laptop. I don't know if you can hear it as well, but that's what I wanted to mention. And the last thing is that your laptop will still always be better when it's plugged into power, because it'll have more power to run, so it can use more performance that way. So if you want to play a game, maybe plug it in, so first of all it doesn't discharge during a gameplay, and second of all, it simply has greater performance. So I hope that this video was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.